Hello, this is David Greenwald, and we are interviewing Dan Wolk, who is a candidate for the City Council. He currently serves on the City Council, but he has not been elected to office yet, so he might as well be a challenger. And so a lot of voters may be unfamiliar with him, except for the fact that his last name is Wolk. So maybe Dan can tell everybody a little bit about himself, and then we can ask him some questions.
Well, first of all, thank you, David. I'm happy to be here, and I think you do great work with the Vanguard. Just about myself, Davis is my hometown. I grew up here, and I went away for college, and then for law school. And I returned to the area, and reconnected with and got married to Yemima Eiley, and we have chosen to raise our two daughters here. Our older one, Avery, is 3 years old, and our younger one is 1 year old.
So Dan, tell me, what do you consider to be maybe the most important issue facing the city right now?
I think without a doubt the most important issue facing the city right now is our budget situation, is our fiscal imbalance. And although our budget may be balanced sort of on paper, so to speak, we have these huge unfunded liabilities facing us, whether they're in the area of personnel costs in terms of pensions and employee and OPEB or retiree health benefits. We obviously have public infrastructure costs that are very large, and we really owe it to my children and to our children to really address these, because if we don't, these problems are only going to get worse and will only make our community worse off.
Now, last year you cast what turned out to be the deciding vote on what we thought was going to be a historical budget, but it seems like nothing's happened.
Well, it's a fair point. I did, as you say, cast. I was on the swing vote, if you will, on a 3-2 majority to not only sort of initially balance the budget, if you will, but to then further make $2.5 million in cuts, part of which, as you know, would go toward public infrastructure, and the other part of which would go toward the other major component of unfunded liabilities, which are pensions and retiree health benefits. And there are a couple things I think that happened. First of all is that we got a new city manager in that time, which obviously entailed the search for the city manager, but also getting the city manager up to speed. And this city manager has a lot of experience down in Manteca and from Stockton and with these budgetary issues, so I think it was important to have his expertise. I'd say another important thing was sort of a slow recognition that the MOUs, as you know, the MOUs are up now for negotiation. They're all expiring, the MOUs we have with our unions, and if we're to get out of this situation, which again is my top priority, it will take shared sacrifice among a lot of parties, but also on the part of the public employees, and this has to be done in not an antagonistic way, but in a collaborative way. And I think the MOU process was seen as sort of a good way to go about trying to address what the council, I think, was trying to address with that 3-2 vote. So that plus the city manager, I think, explains a lot of why, as you say, David, nothing was done, although I think a lot's been done behind the scenes.
Well, that's perhaps true, but one of my big concerns has been this $7 million figure that I kind of throw out, which is what was calculated to be kind of the increase in what the city's going to owe with pensions and retirement health and kind of this unfunded infrastructure that we have in the city, roads and streets and things like that. And so how are we going to get to that number in the next few years if we just have one MOU process?
Absolutely an excellent question, David, because I think it's important for people to recognize that although it may seem that $2.5 million figure was shocking, and I certainly think that we're one of the few cities in the area that really made a concerted effort to address those. I think that we're, you mentioned the $7 million figure. That's it just sort of shows you that our problems go beyond just that 2.5 million. And you're right. You know, the thing is that there's not going to be a magic bullet on this issue. And it took us years to get into this, and it's going to take us years to get out. And we got into this under a financial paradigm that is no longer viable. And I think it's really going to take a new generation of leadership and ideas to get us out of it. And I think that we really need to, you know, the MOU process is going to be just one part, really, and just for sort of one period, in terms of really getting at these issues, which I think is really, again, going to take us a number of years really to get out.
Well, one of the questions I have is, you voted to put Davis Diamonds in the auto mall. And I know you've been asked this question a million times and probably a million different ways, but it seems incompatible that you're taking potential tax revenue out of the city of Davis to put a facility that's probably not going to earn much in the way of taxes.
Fair question. I see where you're coming from on this. I wish to question the premise of that question. I don't think my vote for Davis Diamond should be seen as somehow anti-economic development or anti-sales tax, any more so than Joe Corboza and Rochelle Swanson's vote, against Davis Diamonds moving in there, which should be seen as anti-Davis Diamonds or anti-gymnastics. I think it's a false dichotomy, this whole sales tax versus Davis Diamonds notion, and I think we can and should have both in our community. Now, just to address quickly the points about Davis Diamonds, as you mentioned, I've addressed it before, but I'm happy to talk about it. As you noted, you use the word potential revenue, and that's the key here. Well, one of the reasons I voted against it is that this site has been vacant for about 6 years, and its neighboring sites have been vacant for another number of years. So I think there's something to be said for having a bird in the hand versus two in the bush. Second of all, just for me personally, I have a 3-year-old who loves gymnastics. I had a wife who did it for many years. I have I haven't made it any secret that children's recreation programs are one of my top priorities for the city. And so the idea of Davis Diamonds leaving town, which is a very real possibility, I think would, I would just hate to be a part of the council that did that.
So let me ask you, this week, of course, is a week in which headlines were made in this community and actually across the region for maybe the wrong reasons. An attack was put forth via a mailer to not only a fellow candidate but one of your colleagues. Obviously, you came out strongly against that. There's no doubt about that. But are there ways we can reform our system so that these types of attacks don't happen anymore?
Well, boy, I would like to see if we could. That attack was, as you said, I made a real strong statement about it. I think it just has absolutely no place in Davis politics, and I'm unequivocal about that. I think all the council candidates were, even Stephen Souza himself, who some people were saying was sort of supposed to be maybe the beneficiary of it, was also unequivocally against it. And certainly. Attack ads have been part of our political history since before we were in a country, but at least since we're just beginning as a country. So that's always been with us, negative campaigning, and it's just unfortunate. Unfortunately, studies have shown that it works in many instances, and I think in this instance it doesn't work. It's completely backfired, and certainly I think that there are ways that we can go about doing it in terms of controlling it, but I think it's going to take an effort on the part of the folks who do that, on the part of the political action committees or whomever, and the candidates, because of course you're dealing with the First Amendment, and of course anyone has the right to say what they want within reason. Well,
Dan, we're just about out of time. I know 10 minutes goes real quickly. Why don't you share with people your website so that if they want more information about you and your candidacy, they can go there?
Well, thank you. Again, this has been really enjoyable. I can't believe how fast 10 minutes has gone. Yes, to learn more about everything I've talked about and much more, and how you can get involved with my campaign, it's www.danwolk.org.
This has been David Greenwald interviewing Dan Wolk on behalf of DavisVanguard.org. Make sure you come out and vote on June the 5th.